the cash we got from Chevron is more than enough to last us the rest of 2025, all the way through 2026 and beyond. So, we're in this reasonably enviable position of genuinely being fully funded. We don't need more money anytime soon.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. Joining me is Challenger Energy Group CEO, Eitan Uliel. Eitan, very good to speak with you. You released an update yesterday focused on your progress in Uruguay. Firstly, what work is currently being undertaken at OFF1?
Hi, always nice to be here. Look, on OFF1, we're actually remarkably busy at the moment, but with the daily grind. I know people who watch this tend to love, big earth-shattering news, but it's the daily grind that makes the business. And we are working with our partner Chevron to prepare for a 3D seismic campaign, which should kick off in the last quarter of this year. And there's just an enormous amount of stuff that needs to be done, contracting and technical preparations. And there is quite literally a team of people working on this now, pretty much full time. And in parallel, as we announced yesterday, I mean, the Uruguayan government is going through the processes of awarding the necessary permits to the seismic vendors for the 3D seismic shoot to get underway. That involves a series of public consultations in Uruguay, which have begun. They seem to be going fine, and all the indications are that the permits will be issued in due course, certainly with enough lead time for the seismic to kick off, as we've said, towards the end of this year, which is very much in accordance with plan. But to your question, a lot of daily activity, the bread and butter of oil company life, preparing for a 3D seismic campaign, which is no small endeavor. So all of that's underway at the moment.
Once the 3D seismic campaign begins, how long will it be until results are released to the market?
Well, I don't know, is the short answer. I mean, in the end, the operator of this block, following the farm out we did last year, is Chevron. So it is Chevron who will get the information, who will put it through the Chevron technical machine, which is quite something to be seen in terms of all the analysis and technical work product that will be brought to bear. So we'd probably look to see some initial results and data first quarter, late first quarter, early second quarter of next year, assuming everything gets underway as planned. But ultimately, as I've said in several forums before, the real thing here is that a decision needs to be made towards the end of next year on whether Chevron as operator and us as partner would like to go forward with drilling an initial well. And all of this 3D seismic and all the supplementary technical work feeds into that decision-making process. So the key decision point here comes towards the end of next year when we decide on pushing forward with the first well.
Moving on to OFF3, can you share how the initial results of seismic are looking? Are the team excited?
Yeah, look, the work there is reprocessing of existing 3D seismic. It's a fairly complex process. As we said yesterday, the bulk of the reprocessing work has now been completed. That now moves on to interpretation, mapping, volumetrics. Look, it's a little bit too soon to be singing from the rooftops or making any definitive pronouncements about what we think we've got. But we are pretty excited. As I say, as we've said again in various places, the work we're doing is following a very similar trajectory to the work we did on OFF1 in the lead up to a farm out process there. We will be in a position to kick off a farm out process for OFF3, and that will run through the second half of this year. And our hope is that we'll be able to find a high quality partner for OFF3, so we'll be able to push that forward in the same way that we're pushing OFF1 forward.
Are you already in talks with potential farm out partners for OFF3?
In a manner of speaking, I mean, it's a small industry, weirdly enough, and we're in constant discussion with people. We know a lot of people who are waiting for us to formally commence the process. So there's this kind of low level back talk all the time. But really, what we found with off one, and hence what we will do again with off three, is that the best outcome comes when you run a formal structured process and you sort of go out in a formal way and you say, now we have a data room, come and have a look. We want bids by a certain day. We want a process that follows this structure. So yes, whilst we are maintaining this kind of dialogue with various parties who we know will be interested, nothing really kicks off until we formally launch the process, and we won't be doing that until we've got all of our technical work squared away and a properly constructed data room that we can present to our industry partners.
You've agreed an extension for the sale process of your Trinidad assets. What was the reason for this, Eitan?
Well, in February, we agreed to sell the assets. That agreement is conditional fundamentally on two things. One was Challenger shareholder approval, which we sorted out in March. But the second, more substantive thing is you need to get regulatory approval. This is a very common thing whenever you're selling an interest in oil and gas licenses. The host governments, need to approve the change of control. And those things can typically take months, if not 6 months, 9 months. We were proceeding through the process in the middle of March. There was a snap election called in Trinidad. That election only happened on the 28th of April. The result there was a change of government, and the administrative processes kind of slowed down, if not ground to a halt. So we had been hopeful that we'd sort out all the regulatory approvals by the end of April. That did not happen largely because of that sort of administrative slowdown. And so, both us and the buyer remain committed to closing the transaction. We can't see any reason why it wouldn't, but we've just allowed another 60 days to work through that regulatory approval process.
You recently started trading on the OTC markets in the US. Has there been much interest from US investors?
Yes, quite a lot. I mean, the reason we got the OTC quote was that following our farm out to Chevron, who obviously are a big American multinational household name there, and then the investment in the company from Charleston Energy, who are a New York-based specialist energy investor with a good reputation. And then we saw, some heavy buying of our stock from some North American institutions, such as Morgan Stanley, who are now a very large shareholder. We started to realize that, look, what we have is naturally appealing to people in North America. There is a very large market for oil and gas, people who really understand the concept of exploration, and our key assets being in Uruguay are, as it were, in the Americas. It's things people get. So we got the OTC quote really just to make it easy for people in North America who are interested in the company to become shareholders. And so far, so good. We're seeing increasing daily volume via the OTC. I've been to a couple of marketing type forums in the States over the last couple of months, and really the interest is quite high. So it doesn't take away from our core market in London. It doesn't take away from our existing shareholders, but it is good to open ourselves up to a whole new universe of investors, and hopefully that provides greater liquidity at the very least. And like I say, for me, it's been very encouraging to meet people who have no prior history with the company, no prior baggage, as it were, and who really get what we're trying to do and who understand the nature of oil and gas frontier exploration and the timescales involved and the ultimate risk reward profile that may offer people.
It looks like you have a busy year ahead. Are you fully funded to complete the work programs planned for the year?
Yes, I mean, again, we received a fairly large payment relative to us from Chevron in October last year when we closed our farm out. Our overhead is pretty low for a company of our nature, so we've got, and Chevron will largely meet all of the costs with Area Off One for quite some time under the carry arrangements in our farm out with them. Area of Three, the work program we're doing is of modest cost. We've said in the past around $1.5 million. And so the cash we got from Chevron is more than enough to last us the rest of 2025, all the way through 2026 and beyond. So we're in this reasonably enviable position of genuinely being fully funded. We don't need more money anytime soon.
Eitan, I hope you'll keep us posted on your progress this year. Thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Great. Thanks for having me. Bye.
It's Challenger Energy CEO Eitan Uliel.